Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It is Monday, March 13th, 2023, and I'm back to share with you my Nashville experiences. If you are new here, welcome. I think especially because of my Nashville videos and posts and stuff, there's been a lot of new folks that have been stopping by, and I really appreciate it. So if you're new, welcome, or relatively new, welcome. And certainly thank you to everyone that comes back and shares and comments and supports. We all know the YouTube algorithms. The more you're sharing with other people, the more people can come and find you. Especially if you're new here, I design under Works by ABC. And actually, look what I have sitting right here. This was the door sign of my room in Nashville. I'm a teacher in my other life, but even when I'm here on Flosstube. So sometimes I want to explain something that, sure, maybe most of the people watching know, but maybe there's some people who don't. And like kids in the class are kind of afraid to ask because they feel like they'll look stupid. So to take it on a basic level, Nashville Needlework Market happened last weekend. Well, depends when you watch this. It is a wholesale market in person. So exhibitors, a lot of designers, in addition to thread companies and fabric companies and assorted needlework related items, all gathered together at a hotel. Technically it's in Franklin, Tennessee, which is right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So it just gets referred to as Nashville. It is the only, at this time anyway, in-person wholesale market that happens in our cross-stitch industry. There are like needlepoint ones. I've heard that like years and years ago there would be two in person. This is what we have now. A lot of designers like myself are, building up toward this time at the beginning of March with like great new releases. What happens at the show is it is at an Embassy Suites, so it's not like all the exhibitors are like gathered in some giant ballroom. An Embassy Suites is an all-suite hotel where when you walk into the room, you have a living room space, and then there's like a little hall where the bathroom is, and then the bedroom is in the back. And it's one of these hotels that has a big open atrium, so you can like see people walking on each floor. So every exhibitor sets up that living room space as their store. And we prop open the doors, and the people who come to shop are the store owners who are then bringing home all kinds of goodies for you all to then go and purchase from them. And so I think we all know when you see something in person, you could have the best picture in the world posted on an Instagram post or in a newsletter to a store or something, and there's just nothing like seeing it in person. So this was my second year exhibiting. Right when I was getting ready to start, again, knowing, thank you, some new people are here, I was realizing, and I didn't check the date, somewhere around middle to late March is my 6th year Flosstube anniversary. It was March of 2017. I had discovered this world of Flosstube about late January, and it started watching over, 5-6 weeks, and was just so into this idea of a community that I had never heard of. I've been stitching my whole life since I was in high school, but here was this world. And then at some point in those few weeks, it was like, I want to be a little bit more in part of this world, and maybe I'll put out a video and see if some people will watch it. And here we are 6 years later. It was a few months after that I decided to give a go at being a designer. I've often designed my own things over the years, but to actually put my designs out there and see if people wanted to purchase them. So here we are, these years later. This was my second year at Nashville. We all have these signs that there's a magnet to it, so it's easy enough to just take it with me. They don't keep them from one year to the next, so it was either going to be trashed or I was going to take it with me. And so all the store owners that are walking the halls, obviously there's maps and there's booklets and everything, but you also visibly see whose room you're at or where you're trying to head. It's exhausting. It is amazing. Networking, that makes it sound so formal. Being with people who love what you love, being with designers, being with store owners, being in this world, this little bubble of stitching souls is just amazing, and it's wonderful. And I probably came home like lots of other folks, exhausted. The store owners go home. I mean, this is the theory, is all the exhibitors show up with boxes and whatever filled with patterns, and the store owners show up with empty cars and empty suitcases. And then at the end, the designers go home with the empty boxes and the empty suitcases, and the store owners have the filled boxes and filled suitcases to bring back to their customers. This year, when I came back, I was very fortunate. I'll launch into it to a moment about some great success, which included selling out of some of my patterns. So my focus when I got home was immediately getting orders in the mail. And so a lot of things did not get done last week that I would have wanted to get done, like making a Flosstube video. But once I got that last package out on Thursday afternoon, I started tackling my list. My boxes, I live in central New Jersey, and I flew and shipped my boxes of models and display stuff and patterns. Some people can do a long drive. I just can't. So my boxes had come back. It was either Wednesday or Thursday, and I haven't unpacked it. Well, I opened some up this morning because I knew I needed to make this video, and there were some things I needed in there. There's so many things on the to-do list, and it's about priorities, and eventually everything will get done. Don't we always say that about to-do lists? Anyway, let me jump into some stuff. So most of this video is related to Nashville. I admit I have stuff laying all over the place in a not as organized as I would like to manner, but it is what it is. So again, if you haven't been around, so this is a little sign that I had sitting just on the desk where I was checking people out. I'd stitched it quite some time ago. Works by ABC. My initials really are ABC, Arlene Beth Cohen. People have asked me about this. When I first had this idea to do designing, I wanted to be ABC Works. And I knew I was going to go through Etsy as a platform for selling, and the name ABC Works had already been taken on Etsy. Now, and I haven't checked recently, but it was like a defunct store. There was nothing in there. There was no activity for X number, whatever, months, years. But because the name had already been taken, I couldn't use it. And that's when I flipped it around and made it Works by ABC. So, in my last video, I went through all of my new releases, and you can get the full story and go back and watch that video if you wish. But I just want to share little tidbits from all of that with you today. So my biggest seller, which I was thrilled with, I mean, truly, it was a great experience. I had so many wonderful conversations. I have a little notebook, little spiral notebook to write down anything I needed. And it was the same notebook I used last year. I just, put a sticky note to say this is the 2023 notes and comment, and come back with so many ideas and so many, designing ideas and stitching ideas and ways, I sort of upped my game in terms of display from last year to this year, and I got notes on how to do it even better for next year. And I'm already off track with what I was going with. I love when people love the things I put out there. I have a very eclectic design style in that I don't do all smalls. I don't do all cutesy. I don't do all primitive. I don't do all samplers. I like, there's nothing I do lots of different things. So one of the things that I love are these lace designs. In a separate part of my world, I also do Bobbin Lace, and I'm actually going to talk about Bobbin Lace later on in this video. Like many floss tubers who do knitting or quilting or other things, I love sharing it with all of you folks. I also know some people are only here for the stitching, so that'll be at the end. So, but because of my lace interests, I started doing these designs, and each one of them I've done over the last few years, I've said, oh, this one's my favorite. The last one I put out would have been at Expo in August of 2021, and at that time that was my favorite. You can it's called Elegant Lace. You can look it up on my Etsy store website. This is the new one that came out for market, and this is called Exquisite Lace, and yeah, it's my favorite one now. And I feel like it's going to be hard to beat. I already have in the works the beginning of what might turn into my next lace design, but I love the way this one turned out. So right now, my new designs I sold as exclusives to Nashville. What that means is that for the first few weeks after Nashville, the only people who are selling it are stores that were there in person. It's to give, store owners spend money, time, effort, all of that to go to Nashville, and to give them something in return. Many, not all, but many of the new things that come out are sold only to stores for the first about 4 weeks. Some designers don't do that. Some put it immediately on their own websites or anything like that. So near the beginning of April, I will be putting this, as well as all my other Nashville pieces, on my Etsy store. And I'll do like an IG post whenever that goes out. On my Etsy store, in addition to selling paper copies, I sell PDFs. And I know that is often a big thing for folks for any number of reasons. So you will be able to get this and other designs in a few weeks, especially on PDF, but also paper copies. But support your local stores. If you know somebody, a store that did go to market in person, support them. We the industry, we need all parts. We need the stores, we need the designers, we need it all, with stitchers, the customers. So I wanted to share something that I don't think I've ever shared on a video before, which is a little bit of the background of this, because I had it on display at Nashville. Many of these lace pieces have been taken from actual lace tablecloths, runners, whatever, machine made from various different time periods. This is not like a lace tablecloth that I sit and created. It would take like forever to do that. And if you were to go on any site, or even to like an antique store and look at lace tablecloths, there is a huge variety of quality. Even if you were looking at 10 different machine made things, not even talking about anything that's potentially handmade, there's a huge range. So I had encountered, let me start out here. So this is what I had hanging. So it's a table runner. Can you see that? And I'm hoping you can see, even from just this top part, how, can I do this both at the same time? I should have worn like a dark colored sweater or something. So I'm hoping you can see that I pulled parts, but if I were trying to make something this long, first of all, I know I would be bored with stitching it, let alone anyone else, and it would just be too big. I mean, I can't hold both of these at the same time, but this is about, my stitching on 36 count is only slightly smaller than this that I'm holding in my hands. So if I were to actually do this whole thing, way too big. So I'm always on the lookout for things like this that I can then use in some way. Now, I was thinking about this today. I'm like, let me crowdsource this, because maybe somebody out there has the answer for me. The truth is, before I purchased this, and this was one of these times, I have to love it when I see it, to just know this has potential. And I knew when I saw the listing for this, it was way too large, but it just drew my eye in so much. It is a tablecloth. It is a giant tablecloth. I can't, I'll stand up as much as I can, all right. And then if you look at the center part of this, you see that same familiar, pieces of it. I loved the swags of flowers. I loved the whole thing. When I laid this out on my hardwood floor downstairs, it's just stunningly beautiful. If I were to try to translate it sort of little square by little square to a cross-stitch design, it would be about 1,400 stitches by 1,900 stitches. That's larger than any height I know. Let's just say I'm not going to be stitching that. You're not going to be stitching that. So I had started to chart out a couple of the flowers, and I was just so unhappy because there was so much, and I couldn't capture what I was looking for of it. And so it was not that I was totally giving up on it, but I had to put it aside. And then to see another piece that is clearly from the same, well, so here's the wording. And I also have a third piece also. You know, when you have a set of dishes and there's like, some old dishes, but you can say this is the such and such pattern. And then you could go on like dish websites and discover, okay, that pattern that came in dinner plates and soup bowls and whatever, like you can see what the whole thing, what all the options were if you were so inclined to like collect them all. Or if you have, like great grandma's set that you really want to complete, you have places to go to buy that one extra dinner plate or that one extra teacup. I have been looking for something like that for linens, for textiles that are like tablecloths and table runners and so on. Because, like I said, I've got a few of these now that are clearly from the same pattern. I would love to know how many there are out there. If anyone knows, and I've tried to join a few vintage textile Facebook groups. I've sort of followed a few leads, but I'm open to any suggestions you might have of where I might find, there's so limited information and it's all a visual thing. And yes, I've tried the Google images thing. I'm not going to say I've tried it all because I keep hoping somebody will have an answer for me. So if you happen to know of something like the dish replacement websites that exist for linens, like table linens and so on, please let me know. I would love to pursue any ideas. So that it was just fun to have the table runner on display and show people. So like I said, Exquisite Lace was an early sellout, as was my nesting dolls. And again, you can hear the full story behind them in my last video, but I never got tired. Sorry, I should have had this prepped and ready to go, but I didn't. I never got tired of when people would come over to the area of my room where my new for Nashville things were and showing them. And certainly I sent an email to all store owners, as most people did here, my new things, you can pre-order and so on. And so many of them saw it there. But some of them either saw it and didn't realize or hadn't even seen it, that they're nesting dolls that I specifically made, to nest. So they're made out of perforated paper. I was selling the 2 pieces of perforated paper with the pattern. And I loved the expression on people's face. Like, wow, that's cool. Again, just doing something a little different in cross-stitch world. So this one sold out pretty soon after Exquisite Lace. I also had a couple of others that I was just thrilled for the positive feedback. In sales, yes, of course, but also just in the kind words. And that just, it made a difference to me. It really does. It helped me come back even that much more energized to, like, what I want to be doing right now is pursuing all these ideas for some new designs. What I don't want to be doing now is like cleaning up my home and like unpacking boxes and doing all the boring stuff. One thing at a time. Okay. Couple other things to share about Nashville. I had put out, if you didn't know, there is a cookbook that is put out. And it is only sold at market to store owners that show up. Unlike me saying, hey, you can get my Exquisite Lace, you, an individual, or even a store that didn't go to market, can get it within a few weeks. The one thing that is the exception to that, for sure, is the cookbook that is put out by Needlework Retailer. And I learned after last year, growing year, every year is going to be a growing year, but just I should be taking advantage of any opportunity I can. And so one thing I did this year was contribute to the cookbook. So I sent in a recipe, and you can also send in a small pattern if you wish. Somebody counted, now I forget. So here's my little page. I'll just hold it at a distance. And actually the necklace that I'm wearing, which I think I was wearing in my last video, but I don't know if I commented on it, is this design. I also had stitched a little display thing. So I had this sitting on the table where I was checking people out. And so if you are interested in the cookbook, either for the recipes or for all the little designs that are in here, somebody said 30. I don't know if that's a right number or not. I suppose there's 63 pages in the cookbook. And I suppose you could say almost half of them, if not more, have design on them. So maybe that is right. Anyway, the only way to get this is from a store that went to Nashville. Look around if you're interested in this. So that was a design I offered. And then also another thing that I didn't do last year that was like, hey, give it a thought, is a freebie that I was handing out. I ran out of the paper copies, and I'm sending a follow-up email to stores, and just will include the file anyone wants it. So I think 2 videos ago, I shared my little thread experiment here. So I just took a flower and turned it into a freebie design that any store owner can have and copy and give to their customers. I also, as I did last year, these were a big hit. I brought pens. You could see Works by ABC and my website there. And I certainly wasn't the only designer giving out pens. These were a little different. They were puzzle pens. They are puzzle pens. So I should have had this prepared somewhere in here. Oh, there goes one of them. There's a couple little beads. Ooh, there we go. And the goal is, can you get them to one end or the other? If you're really good, can you get one to one end and one to the other? Which I've never been able to do. But with enough playing, you could get them to one end. And it was a lot of fun giving these out as soon as people walked in. And how many people started immediately doing this? Or talked about, ooh, this will be good for the plane ride home. So my Works by ABC pens were a big hit. I posted on Instagram just a couple days ago about this piece. So I'm now moving into a little bit of what did I come home from Nashville with besides the need to fulfill a lot of orders. You may hear about folks that do a lot of purchasing. Well, obviously the store owner's purchasing, but the exhibitors can go around and you don't do it like Friday night when everything's in big demand, but hey, do you have a copy of that? I'd love to stitch it, or I'd love to give it to a friend. And so there is some purchasing that does happen. And it's just not me. Basically almost everything I'm stitching are my own designs. There are beautiful things out there, trust me. I did do a little purchasing, and one of the little purchasing was a pair of scissors. I started, again, this whole rebirth of stitching that happened 2017, learning about Flosstube and then learning about retreats and what that really meant. So starting in 2018, for every retreat or stitching gathering that I've been to, I have wanted to get a pair of scissors with some kind of fob that is a souvenir for that stitching experience. So I knew in the bits that I was leaving my room to go around to do some, for me, a priority was making contacts with thread companies and fabric companies. But I knew somewhere along the line in my travels, I wanted to pick up a pair of scissors. So this is a Sun and Moon scissors that I purchased at Dinky Dies. And I just kind of put this together on my own. These threads, I'll actually talk about them in a moment. They're new threads, new for Nashville. And then at the airport, I found a keychain and I kind of took it apart, and you can see there's the Nashville right there. So these are my Souvenir Scissors from Nashville 2023. Something I should have said earlier on, so I'm going to say it right now. When I said how I wanted to leave my room to do a little purchasing, it is really difficult. I can't say anything's impossible. Really difficult to do Nashville by yourself. Just because certainly that would mean you couldn't really leave your room at all during the open hours, but also just if you have more than one customer in the room, you have somebody that wants to check out and you have 2 people that have questions and so on. It's a needed thing. So my friend McKenna came, and she was amazing and so helpful. She is stitching in sequins. She is also 1884 Stitchery. I'll put some links below. Go check her out. And I saw from room to room, whether it was a sibling, a parent, a husband, a friend, or multiples of any of those, we all need it. And so a huge thank you to McKenna for all the help. She was incredibly helpful this year. I really appreciated it. in my wanderings around while McKenna was holding down the fort in my room, I made sure to stop in at Gentle Arts and picked up the new threads for Nashville. I think I saw some store owners that there's also like some limited edition things, which I think Gentle Arts does. I'm not interested in picking that up for my designing because I don't want to stitch with something that's a limited edition and then you can't get it later. So they have 2 new cotton and 2 new wool. If you didn't know, Gentle Arts, in addition to the cotton thread, you may be familiar with, does wool. So the new colors are Spring Grass and Adobe for wool. And their new cotton is Ohio Sky and Habanero. This Ohio Sky, I think, is so... I mean, it's coming across like a off-white, which it is, but it's got some variegation that's got some gray and a little bit of like pinkish. I would love to stitch this up, particularly in some kind of like monochrome space, just to see how the variegation plays out. So this is definitely on my mind for a potential future design. And then, of course, I also made sure to stop at Weeks, and they have 5 new threads. Does Weeks do limited editions? I don't think so. So there are 5 new threads. We have Apple Pucker. We have Chia. We have Sun Dried. This is Mountain Mist. It's like a tealy green. And this is Winnie Bee Blue. And the scissors, in trying to find some way to connect, I just wanted to add in something else. So in this little piece that's braided is some Winnie Bee Blue, some of the Adobe, and some of the Ohio Sky, just to kind of connect the threads from that. I also got to see, for the second time in person, Ymir and almond M&M threads. She was her first time exhibiting. She said it was really great. This was a sample that she was giving out. So these are silk, and this is a 12-ply silk. Can you just even begin to kind of... and if you follow her on Instagram, Almond M&Ms, and she does I think she just put out a Flosstube. She stitches tiny. Like this is on 56 count over 2. So that's like the equivalent of stitching 28 count over 1. But I also have a couple necklaces that I've done on 56 count over 1. Now, Ymir does a lot of her stitching with things like 56 count over 1. This I needed to do in small little spurts because it was killing my eyes. But one of the challenges when you're stitching that small is finding thread that you can use, because even one strand of DMC gets to the point where it's too thick. And so I don't know if exactly that's kind of where she got started with this idea of, like she herself needed some different kinds of threads, and then she started dyeing them. So her stuff might be coming to some stores near you. That's her M&M Studio. And so I am looking forward, and I also had another little sample from her, to playing around with this thread for a number of different things, particularly in Bobbin Lace world. And obviously you don't need to stitch with 1 ply. I mean, you could stitch with all 12 of them and it would look, it would be perfectly lovely. It all depends on what you might potentially be interested. And her dyeing, there are some beautiful, beautiful colors there. So looking forward to exploring a little bit more with her threads. So I did have one particular project in mind that I thought if I could pick up some, threads that are not so easy for me to get, and even some fabric, that would be awesome. So I found in Dinky Dies, I needed 3 threads that were of the same color family, but different. So these are 3 Dinky Dies that I have picked up. This is Kiri Billy. We've got Boolia and Wild Lavender. And in making my rounds of the fabric companies, I met up with some new folks that I'm really excited and looking forward to working with them. So again, you may have heard other Nashville returnees talking about them. They are Grace Notes Fabric. They've only been around a couple years. They got a lot of positive feedback, certainly at market. Go check them out. I'll put some links below. I picked out this color, which is called Black Licorice. And there's a side of me that's thinking, wow, this is just going to be so perfect. There is another side of me that's worried about whether the threads will not stand out enough on this fabric. But it's already in my mind, I've got a plan B for the threads. I got a plan B for this fabric. So even if these two guys don't go together, you will eventually be seeing the result of what I picked up here at Nashville. Grace Notes fabric, this to me, this is the kind of thing I loved. They only had certain colors, like their Nashville exclusives they were selling to stores, like yards of it. I don't know, maybe they had more than just those exclusives, but they also had sitting on a table rings of all their colors. And here was the key part. For each color, there was a swatch of linen, even weave, and Aida. And you could visually see how the dye just takes differently. And to me, I mean, it's like I almost want to like buy a designer ring of those. It's just, it was, I loved that. I absolutely loved to visually see that. I think all fabric dyers should do that if they're able to. Now I got myself off track with them. Anyway, go check them out. Grace Notes fabric. I'm sure they made plenty of store connections, and you can look into what stores are now carrying them. They also have a website where you can purchase directly from them. Yes. Few other things picked up at market. Scarlet Sky Designs, Shelby and Shane, so sweet. They were there purchasing. They do a lot of like wood finishing things and things like needle minders. So I got a sweet needle minder, as well as, and I'll link her below. She's on Etsy. Yes. I know I saw her post a picture of this. I'm assuming she was handing this out because she's now has it available in her store. Okay. A floss drop. We all have different ways of doing floss drops, but this is an interesting thing. So can you see? No, you can't, because I'm looking for something dark to hold up against. Oh, if I do this, well, that's good enough. So floss drop, like a plastic kind of thing. See those? That's made for stitching. Stitch a few X's and you can really see what the color looks like. This little tabby there, of course I don't have anything available, is meant for when you have a DMC and you want to keep track of the color. You take the little piece that has the color and you slip it in right there. And that way, you know, you don't need to, I mean, I suppose you could write, or you could add a little tag or something like that, but you can have the little thing from your DMC sitting right there. Big hole for the whole thing, little hole for the parts. I think these are really clever, and I think, and she also gave me, I guess this is like maybe the first version was before she had the stitching area, but go check these out. I think they're unique, something different. Again, the theme, something different. I love. A couple of gifts in addition to Shelly that I mean, talk about out of the blue things. So, oh my God, I'm not going to say it correctly. Pinny and Tunny. I think that's how to pronounce it. And please forgive me. Lynn, please forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly. She came in, she was purchasing some of my patterns and just sort of out of the blue said, and I have a gift for you. So if you go on her Etsy store, which I will also link below, she sells project bags in addition to like the pattern she was purchasing. And she gave me as a gift a Hanukkah set. And, you know, my Jewish items. I did not bring my Hanukkah designs with me. It's kind of not the right time of year, but I had with me the two Passover things that I have, the matzah cover and the afikomen bag, and then I had the reproduction sampler that has the Hebrew alphabet in my little Jewish area. And I did hear from a few folks how much they appreciated that. Now, were they big sellers? No, because everyone knows their customers. But I definitely had a couple people who said, in effect, thank you for having that part of our stitching world. So, and this is beautifully made. Love the fabric on the inside. So please go check her out. And she will be coming to my Stitch NJ, my needlework, my stitching retreat this coming July. When I'm getting people signed up through Google Forms, they are who they are. Sometimes I recognize a name, but she pointed out to me, oh, I'm signed up to come to your retreat. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't know that. She's like, there's no reason you would have known that ahead of time. So I look forward to having a better conversation with her than the briefness that we had. Lynn, if you're watching, thank you so much. This was very sweet. Continuing on the sweet realm, I know some of the new folks that have come to me have been thanks to Antique Needleworkers, Shelly and Liz, who gave me a wonderful shout out. I can't thank them enough. As is the case whenever somebody shares with you, ooh, go check out whoever, and just grows our community in that way. And so I had some wonderful back and forth with Shelly over my last video, her video. She was showing in her tour of her mill, she had some Bobbin Lace pillows. So it's just been a lovely little back and forth. And so she messaged me 2 days before Nashville and said, my friend Sylvia is running with needles and scissors, running with needles and scissors. And she is a first-time exhibitor at Nashville. And she said, and I'm sending her with a gift to give to you, which was like so sweet and out of the blue. And there was a little funny cat and mouse. I literally, Sunday afternoon, things are a little quiet. McKenna's holding down the fort. One of the places I was trying to stop was to go meet Sylvia. And what I learned, right when I got down there and she wasn't there and her helper said, oh, okay, I left that room to kind of go into wherever next was, get a text from McKenna. There's a woman up here who's leaving you a gift. We were literally in each other's rooms at the same time. Took a little going back and forth, eventually caught up with her. So Sylvia, it was so nice to meet you. And Shelly, thank you so much. This is... If you watch any Antique Needlework videos, the amazing things they both do. I know Shelly repurposes old quilts, and this, it's a notebook, and I will be keeping it up here in my creative space and using it to kind of keep track of the creative ideas. And again, the gesture of friendship, that's just huge. So thank you. Something that came up from Shelly's video that I just feel the need to explain, although maybe I'm like the only one who even noticed it. As is often the case, if you are shouting out somebody in a Flosstube video, you put a link below so that other people can find them. And I hopefully will remember to do that for all the people I've been talking about so far. And however you link it, however you copy and paste, whatever, YouTube. So it's been a while, but whenever somebody might ask me, hey, or might say, hey, I'm interested in starting a Flosstube. Do you have any suggestions, any advice, so on? The first piece of advice I say is make sure you're starting a brand new account, because when I finally got the nerve up, I'm going to film this video. Okay, my first Flosstube, like I said, 6 years ago. And then I was like, all right, now what do I do with it? So I go on YouTube, and as much as I can piece together after the fact, I discovered I already had a YouTube account. Cool. I uploaded it and didn't really think that much of it. And pretty soon, like within 1 or 2 videos, I was like, wait a second, my videos are under my name, Arlene Cohen. And I was like, but people call it, stitching in the country or needles and thread, whatever. And I was like, I want to change mine to something. And it wasn't until I really evolved the whole Works by ABC thing. And then I discovered that when I went to change it, it threw off my email. my regular, not business, not, designer email. What I learned is that account that I'd set up was connected to my regular Gmail account. And why did I set up something on YouTube? Well, it was years ago when I was in charge of a 6th grade field trip to the Museum of Math in New York City. And there was this whole thing, the kids had to do little videos. We didn't want them bringing their iPads. So the teachers all had an iPad and they had to video, the kids had to say, I'm ready for my video, to do a little thing. So I needed someplace to have the teachers dump all those videos so I could collect them and, do something with them. And so apparently I created this account, and it was just like a private thing. No one could see it. It was hidden except for the teachers I gave permission to it. And it was called 6th grade field trip videos, or maybe just 6th grade field trip. So sometimes when somebody is like copying and pasting, the address or whatever, however you want to call it, to find somebody's video, it says 6th grade field trip videos as my name. And I saw that on Shelly and Liz's, their information. And I just laughed because I'm like, is anyone going to know that's me? And it's so, moral of the story. So by the time I figured this all out, I had a number of subscribers, and to start fresh, I would lose all those people, and would they find me? And then what would happen to me commenting on their videos? And I just said, you know what, I'm going with it. And so every so often when I see somebody, like I said, putting a link and it shows up 6th grade field trip videos, well, maybe you didn't notice it now, which I know you're going to look for it, aren't you? That's the reason why it says that. Start a brand new account if you're doing a Flosstube. So that, I'm looking around, I think is everything that I had to share about Nashville. I am going to keep talking about Bobbin Lace. If you are interested, please hang around. And if you're not, thank you so much for being here, supporting, caring, leaving the comments and the likes and helping the YouTube algorithms. It's just so wonderful, especially to meet some more new people. So, couple of videos ago, I started to talk about Bobbin Lace, which I hadn't talked about in a while. You can go back and watch earlier videos. I think I even once or twice did like a, instead of stitch with me, I did a lace with me. If you've never seen Bobbin Lace before, like you have no idea what I'm talking about. Bobbin Lace is one of the ways that lace was made before machines made lace. Basically, go back centuries, there were basically 2 categories, needle lace and bobbin lace. And I learned, or I first heard about it by seeing someone demonstrating, which is often the case, and I was just so intrigued. Elaine, if you're watching, I've shouted her out before. She was my first lace teacher, and I found her demonstrating at like a festival or fair, and she got me started. And Evelyn, if you are watching, I consider her my second lace teacher for the times that I would go in the summer to a class that was up in Vermont. So we can blame a lot on COVID and quarantine times. My lace interest had been really low, down to 0 in the last couple of years. And that's just, it is what it is. But back in December, I just started to have that feeling again, and I was so glad it came back to me. And I think some people talk about this with stitching, that they just go through a low of no interest, and then hopefully it comes back. So I think I shared about the lace project that I decided to pick up, which I don't know if it will ever get finished. But this is from a magazine from some time ago. I saw someone had created a lace chessboard using 64 squares of lace. She had 16 designs that she did each of them 4 times. And I mean, the satisfaction of this is I can make a little square, 2 squares, and say, yeah, I'm not doing 64, and then just, do something decorative with them. Or I could keep going as long as I feel like going. So I had on my pillow, I think the time I showed this, the first square. And so here is the first square complete. And I started working on the second square. A little bit about bobbin lace. When you're doing bobbin lace, you work with 2 bobbins at a time. I'm going to show you them in a second. And so when you're starting, you start with 2 bobbins that are attached. Like picture a piece of thread, and you wind a bobbin here and a bobbin here. If you know you're going to be doing something like this, where you want to use the same threads and so on, you can do a shortcut, which is, let's just say I needed a yard of thread, okay? You put 3 yards on this bobbin and 1 yard here. Finish off that first square, 1 yard gone, 1 yard gone. This one still has 2 yards on it. You unwind a yard and you put it on here, and it just saves you a little bit of time of the winding. And if I really got into it, you put 10 yards on here. I didn't do that because, again, I wasn't sure how much I'm going to go with this. So I did start working on the second square, and I'm going to hold this up as much of an angle that I feel like I can. So these are bobbins. If you think about sewing machine bobbins, they serve the same purpose. They're just obviously a different shape. They hold thread. These are bobbin holders. So I'm going to do this. So you can see there that I've got literally halfway done with the second square. Now, I will say, again, finished the first one, kind of immediately wanted to get the second one going. I paused. I'm like, this feels a little, short version. I want to see what it will look like with a finer thread. And it may be too wimpy and then all is fine, or I may do the finer thread. I'm like, oh yeah, I like this better. So it will depend. There's no way to know until I do it. So I'm going to finish this square, and then I'm going to do a square with a finer thread that I have and make a decision. The plan is to do black squares and gold of some kind. I've got a few possibilities, and I'll keep you all posted how that project is going. I also shared on my Instagram just this past Saturday, I went to a lace day. Now, this is also a story about the power of kindness and reaching out to people. Before COVID, in addition to my stitch group, I also had a lace group that we would meet about once a month at a local library. And it was small, 5 to 7, depending on how many of us would show up. There is a much larger lace group that meets much further north in New Jersey. So I've known about them. They put on events that I've gone to. We were scheduled to have our March 2020 meeting. I don't know the exact date, but let's just say more or less the first weekend when the world shut down. So earlier that week, there was emails like, what are we thinking about Saturday? I'm not sure. So obviously we canceled March 2020 meeting. We just haven't gotten back together. At the beginning, there was a little bit of sharing emails back and forth, and things happen. All that said, just a week or two ago, out of the blue, I got an email from one of my lace group members, Anne Marie. So sweet, so kind for her to reach out to me after so long. She was letting me know that she's also a part of the larger group, that they were doing a lace day. And I've been to their lace days before. Did they have one last year? I know they didn't go if they had one. They definitely didn't have one the year before. Anyway, she said, I'd love to see you again, and here's our lace day, and if you can come, that would be great. And I'm like, thank you so much. It was not on my radar. At some point, maybe I would have started to think about, I'm wondering if, because they used to do it like February, March time, but I really appreciate it. So take a moment, reach out to somebody that you haven't in a while, say something about their world, your world, just in a surprise kind of way. It really can make a difference in somebody's day. So despite all the cleaning and the unpacking and the organizing and stuff that I need to do around here, what did I do on Saturday? Took a long trip northward, went to a lace day. I'm going to share a few things and do it quickly because I don't know how much everyone's interested in. I purchased this book. There's all different kinds of lace. You see behind me. If you see behind me, this shelf, and this shelf are all lace books. Now, it's funny. I don't know if anyone noticed. This right here is empty. That is where I keep my 3 containers of DMC. I have them in the baggies with a ring. And they're usually in the background when I'm doing a Flosstube video. All 3 of them are downstairs with my stitching stuff, part of a new project that, simply put, had so many colors. I'm just like, let me just bring them all downstairs and use them. I might get too frustrated with that system and need to come up with a different system. So that's why my DMCs are not here. This woman does amazing lace things. So is this new or new to me? I certainly had gotten, and this is not going to show much, but these are the designs that are in here. I did one of her designs from the first book of this type of lace. So there's so many different types of lace. And it's almost like a rediscovered kind. This piece is from her first book of this type of lace. And it's not that, like a lot of my lace things I just kind of put like in a portfolio. But this one I liked enough that I framed it up and had it sit, it sits over there. So I wanted to get this. Will I be jumping into any of these soon? No, but will I enjoy looking through them and picking out what I might do when I'm ready? Absolutely. Life Stitching Retreats, there was a freebie table. I picked up some books, including, that morning I took pictures of my shelves because I knew I would not remember what books I had or didn't have. And looking at the right thing. No, you know what? I gotta do this right. Yes, this. Oh, I see. What was throwing me off is the middle shelf. Yes, I pointed to the right ones. So, for example, this book was sitting on the freebie table, which was shocking to me. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. Do I own it? I couldn't find it in my pictures. I did not own it. And this. All right. Here's the truth. I picked up some books from the freebie table. I also won a raffle that had a bunch of books, and I may have mixed in these two things. But the freebie table had a lot of magazines and all of that, but there were these books found. There's also a lot of knitting and crocheting stuff. Marion Powys, I don't know exactly, is a lace person in the U.S. that I'm not going to give the whole lace lecture. But anyway, I believe I've borrowed this book like from a library, not like a regular, like a lace library before. I know maybe I've seen it when I've been going to like a lace day and perused through it. So it's so cool that I now have my own copy. Some other things, but I guess what I also did want to share with you is in addition to the pile of books that I won with raffle tickets, I won this set of bobbins. And you saw my bobbins are plain wood, which I love using. But there's a lot of people who love decorative bobbins, and these are William Morris decorated bobbins. I gave $10, so 10 tickets, and out of the 10 tickets, I won 2 out of the 5 things that I put in the baggies, so I was feeling pretty lucky. Also on the freebie table, like I said, you can find other things besides lace. I found a couple of stitching-related things. Stitching with Overdyed Thread, Mary Shipp. I have heard of this book, and it's just a lot of good information. And this one was an EGA course, I think, from quite some time ago. Rachel Atkinson, that is a name that I definitely have heard of. All right, there are other lace things, more books to share with you that I know I have a few Bobbin Lacers out there. Maybe I'll you can look on my IG. I posted all of it there. All right, so this video's already gone on way longer than I intended, but isn't that always the case? Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every person that we all know you have so many floss to choose from. So if you are here, thank you so much for choosing me for this last little bit of time. I hope you've been stitching or doing something enjoyable while you've been listening to me. Still going on a high of Nashville, and particularly the ideas that are swirling in my head that I want to make happen. And as soon as I can feel kind of cleaned up, organized from Nashville, I'll be going full force at that. Support your local stores, but also know that my Nashville designs will be available in a few weeks, and I'll post about that. Thank you so much. Till next time. Bye.